First of all, just to introduce myself, if you don't know me, my name is Meggyn Marot. I've been with iTOO a good number of years and have spent most of my insurance life in the PI industry. However, I am now the risk manager for iTOO. So my role really is more on what you might be more comfortable with as risk engineering type of work and finding solutions for our insureds. So we are going to be talking all things risk management today, and certainly I welcome any questions. Feel free to either raise your hand. I don't mind being interrupted. I'm just going to ask my wonderful marketing team just to monitor that for me and interrupt me if you need to, and we can answer those questions as they come up. Also happy for you to throw those questions into the chat bar, and we can deal with those at any stage. So please do feel free to participate. So let's get going. So if you don't invest in risk management, it doesn't matter what business you're in, it's going to be a risky business. Our world has gone through extraordinary times. E-commerce grew by more in the first half of 2020 than it did in the previous decade before that. Digitalization is placing enormous strain, not only on legacy systems, and I think everybody in the insurance industry is very familiar with legacy systems, and to reduce the internal costs, but also to optimize customer experience. More and more of our clients are having to deal with ESG considerations, which are really becoming core features in the business modeling. NFTs, blockchain, crypto, culture and diversity in organizations, leveraging technology. Doing business is really a minefield for our clients. You can understand why risk management is not always approached in the most effective way. And I believe that it is really where we as a risk-taking industry play a vital role. We cannot sustain the insurance market by just transferring risk. Industries just won't survive this way. Every industry, every business has to introspect and address their risk profile in a more rounded way, particularly than they ever have before. COVID certainly reset the playing field, not only for our own industry, but for all businesses in one way or another. We have to reimagine our purpose in society. We want to offer more than just a risk transfer solution. With the years of experience, leveraging the data and analytics that we certainly do have in our space, and being more solution-driven, we are able to reaffirm our relevance through product innovations, engaging with various ecosystems as traditional insurance borders start to fall away. And we've now set our sights on risk management. Offering this vital resource to clients is really inevitable. We cannot solely rely on an insurance solution to secure the future of businesses. We have to look at the behavior in every aspect of the business to determine what can be done better. So really, where do we start? Now, if you're anything like me, I found it always quite difficult to have the conversation about insurance policies and feeling like I was selling insurance policies, but I certainly had a much easier time of it, having a conversation with clients about what keeps them awake at night. And I think when we start to deal with these kinds of fears that they have within their business environments, and particularly where we're talking about the liability and exposure of their businesses, we start to have a much better conversation and interaction with our clients, and we certainly do start to get to the very core of what their concerns are. So this is the risk management cycle, and I think nobody is unfamiliar with this. I'm sure everybody in the insurance industry has seen this at some time or another. And really, it seems a simple process. I'm sure there are elements of it that do get a little trickier, but it is a cycle. It is something that has to be used ongoingly, and we have to make sure that we are, in fact, engaging with this cycle all the time. So, of course, naturally, with any risk, a business needs to sit down and have a look and identify their risks first. They have to make sure that they understand what their risk exposure actually is within their environment. We then have to go to the next step, which is taking those risks and really assessing and analyzing them, understanding what the propensity for that risk coming out is and what its impact might be, so that we can start to really prioritize. Only once we prioritize can we actually start to have a plan of action and put into place measures that can protect us in the long run. Once we implement these, it's very important that they are always measured, controlled, and monitored. And of course, we're always coming back to identifying whether new risks are appearing or whether the old risks have perhaps materialized in a very different way. And so this risk management cycle really does become something very important for us to go through and for your clients to keep as part of their business planning. If and when a risk becomes a reality, a well-prepared business can minimize the impact on earnings, lost time and productivity, and especially the negative impact that this has on their customers. For startups or established businesses, the ability to identify risks is a key part of the strategic business plan. Risks are identified through a number of ways. Strategies to identify these risks rely on comprehensively analyzing the company's very specific business activities. There is no one risk management plan that can fit all companies, and not even one that can fit all industries necessarily. And so everything has to be optimized to what best suits that particular client. Most organizations, you will find, actually face preventable strategic and external threats that can be managed through another aspect of risk management that I'm sure you're very familiar with, which is the 4 pillars of risk management, which is to avoid, transfer, reduce, or accept those risks. Your clients need to go through this process, and they will have this by first analyzing every particular risk that they've already identified to understand, is it a risk that they can avoid? Now, obviously, not all risks, it's not really realistic to avoid the risks unless they decide not to do a particular part of their business or perhaps not engage with a particular activity. Then certainly they can avoid it. But it's not always possible to remove the losses that are prevalent within a particular risk category. So then they look at it and they can consider whether it is possible to transfer it. And of course, that's what we're most familiar with, is within the insurance space, because they can take out insurance so that the cost of the risk is at least known to them, and they can manage the risk to some extent in that way. Another option for transferring of risk is contracting the risk out. So they may accept the risk from a client, but they may, for example, subcontract that risk to somebody else. And therefore transfer that risk onto a subcontractor or another expert in the field that can manage either a portion of the work being undertaken or the entire contract. If those are not options, of course, reduction of risk is always important to analyze and try to obtain. We can either minimize the chance of the loss occurring, or else we do this really through our risk management, and we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about this particular pillar in a minute. The other option then, of course, is to accept the risk. We have many clients who may sit in a position where they fully self-insure. It is usually a long-term program that they've undertaken for themselves to ensure that they get to a point where they have self-insurance. It can also be managed to some extent with a higher deductible and self-retention programs, and acceptance of risk can also be managed through cell captives. The overarching through all of these, I believe, that is really fundamental as well, is the contracting terms and conditions, or SLAs. It really is the starting point of all of the risk management for any of the clients, no matter the type of industry that they may be in. So it's incredibly important for them to ensure that they have the appropriate contracts in place. And these are the kinds of conversations that you as broker don't necessarily need to have a legal background or step into the realms of giving legal advice, but you certainly can prompt some of these questions for your clients to go away with and consider at the very least. So within their contracting, some of them just use terms and conditions, some of them have service level agreements. The appropriate contract needs to be in place. it's really important to make sure that the clients are not being forced into contracting terms that are not appropriate for the type of business or services that they're offering. So we often see, for example, service clients, let's take an engineer, being appointed on a supplier contract. Now, a supplier contract would talk a lot about products and guarantees and manufacturing. Unfortunately, none of that really applies to a service offering. And so you have a completely skewed view of the risk and how that liability flows because the wrong contracts are being used. So it's incredibly important that the client is comfortable to have a conversation with their clients around the correct contracting and make sure those are in place. Things like making sure the scopes of service are clear and within the norm of what is expected within their industry. Remember that insurers take on risk based on what the norm is to be considered for that particular industry, and usually have contracting exclusions in the event that you have a client who has taken on or contracted commercially for risk that is higher than he should normally be accepting. So it's really important for them to be careful around making sure those scopes of services are clear. Of course, it also really does help if there's ever disputes to clarify any misunderstanding between the client and the insured. Then, of course, limitation of liability. You can ask your clients, does your contract have a limitation of liability? Now, this in some specific industries, particularly the legal industry, is not a norm, but certainly in other industries, there's no harm in having limitation of liability. It's just a way of managing the risk to ensure that you're only accepting terms and conditions and risk for what you are able to actually manage. There's no point in accepting unlimited liability if you cannot actually honor that unlimited liability with either the risk, a capital exposure down the line, or having an insurance policy to back it. So it makes a lot more sense for the parties to really engage and make sure that the risk is correctly transferred and not simply done on this open-ended, unlimited basis. And then, of course, they need to make sure that they have got good dispute resolution clauses in place. It is really critical that should an issue arise, an unhappiness, a dispute of any kind, that it is easy for the parties to know what steps they have to take and to be able to do that to hopefully reach an amicable solution. It really is problematic having to go to arbitrations and even to court, because at that stage, I think really everybody loses. So the better their dispute resolution is in place, the better they can resolve any issues they have between them. Can't any questions up until now? If you want to interrupt me, you're welcome. So what is it that we really want to do? And I stole this from McKinsey & Co. As iTOO, we've been really delving into our risk identification within the product space, but really diverting that into understanding the different risks across different industries, and then pinpointing areas that we wanted to start with. So, of course, we wanted to start in an area where we could look at where there was frequency of claims and a high volume of claims, and then also look at those areas where there may be severity of claim. And so that is really where our risk exercise began. And we wanted to make sure that we put ourselves in a position that we were supporting not only you as broker, but your clients as well, in finding solutions to manage these risks that they face. Because so often we were finding from various claim scenarios across the different products, that it is very often very simple matters that are overlooked, that are actually causing the claim environment. And so we wanted to support that. We want to make sure that we are supporting your client in giving them good support and information about risk management so that they can go on to have better, healthier companies. It is really important to us. We understand that it's not just a monetary risk that they are taking on and a commercial risk, but they have reputations at stake as well. And it's really important for us. So we wanted to, for ourselves, create a bit of a motto for this year, kicking off this risk management journey, and that is creating value and finding focus. I think certainly we've gone through times where there is so much to deal with, so much happening around us, it can be very overwhelming. And so we wanted to bring back some focus start in one place. There's no one solution to fix all things, and that is really where we started. So I want to share with you just some of our areas that we have started with from a solutions perspective from iTOO, and then I will unpack each of them a little bit more, and I'm sure you will have questions at that stage. So iTOO Risk Solutions has started with various risk solutions we offer to the insured. We want to make sure that the support is there for them when they need it. And particularly where we have identified higher risk industries that need a little bit more support. So on our bottom base there, we started with commercial crime surveys. We're going to talk about those in a minute with Michael from Crime Risk Advisory. We also conduct liability risk surveys. And just a note to you is that all of these solutions that we're offering currently are at no additional cost to the client. So we are taking on all of this risk management ourselves in order to support you. Both of these survey areas give us an opportunity that proposal forms just don't. We can only ask so many questions, and I think if we made the proposal forms any longer, you certainly would not be happy, and I don't think your client would either. So we really want an opportunity with particular clients who we feel need the support or are in a particularly high risk industry to be able to go in, assess what they actually have in place. And it's really, and I really want to stress this, that it is not a checks and balances of the proposal form, and it's certainly not a big stick we're going in with to assess whether or not your clients are doing what they're supposed to. We're really interested in seeing what people have in place, analyzing any gaps that might be present, and trying to highlight and help the client to close those gaps and improve wherever they can. We have seen, and we have surveyors and our various consultants we use across our products who are extremely experienced in these fields, some of them in specific industries, and they really can share a dearth of knowledge around how to close up those gaps in particular industries, because really they've seen it all. Business identity theft is something that is available already to all of you, all of your clients at least, on their insurance policies. So the business identity theft is there. Product recall support. If you joined us last week, or the week before, sorry, 2 weeks ago, we went through a product recall exercise and to understand and unpack everything that goes into a product recall. And so certainly everybody within the food and beverage industry has a huge need for this type of support and the kind of service that can be offered within that space. We offer sanction screening, also available to all of our insureds. I think if you have a cyber policy and you have been interacting with our cyber team, you certainly know there's lots of risk management that preempts a lot of the underwriting that happens there, but we do have cyber incident management available in the event that something does happen to support the clients. Cyber penetration testing is done and can give your clients a good indication of their risk exposure to any cyber incidents. We then have Legal Assist. The Legal Assist currently, again, we'll unpack in a minute, also available to all of our clients. It's on all of our policies, no matter the type of policy that they might be taking out. So that is available to everybody. And then we have Spill Safe Incident Response as well. So we do have this call center overseeing a lot of our incident response and sort of 24-hour call centers that are able to react, particularly in emergency type scenarios. So let's talk a little bit about each of these. And then I really have kept some time open for us to unpack a little bit and answer any questions. I'm sure you have a few, and most importantly, would love your suggestions as well, if there's any area that you think that we can turn to next. So in terms of the Legal Assist, I think traditionally everybody's very used to Legal Assist being a commercial support. Their support is generally limited to company law, commercial matters, labor-related issues, so everything that could relate to the business. But certainly an area that has been missing for some time is our ability to respond to liability matters. And so we are starting to look at expanding the legal assist service. So currently your clients have unlimited 24/7 telephonic advice and assistance available to them for anything within their business. If it's necessary, this can go to a face-to-face consult with a qualified attorney. They can, particularly if you're sitting in a situation of sort of letters of demand being required and such, they write up to 3 letters, depending on the matter and the complexity of the matter, and they also then offer a follow-up consultation. Now, obviously, the aim of that particular service is to assist clients really when there are smaller matters that don't necessarily require enormous legal input, and just to make sure that they are doing the correct thing, that they're getting the right advice that they need, so that they are supported within their business and in the commercial framework. What we're working to add on and will be coming down the line is certainly the ability to vet contracts, the ability to support and give advice around particularly contracting, legal requirements and the like into various industries. So you can stay tuned for that. So please remember, I know it is buried at the back of your policies, but legal assist is available on all iTOO policies. We certainly will be doing a lot more to promote these additional products and services available to your insured. They come at no additional cost, and we certainly want to see your clients making use of these, so please do encourage it. Then we also have business identity theft. Identity Guard looks after this for us, and this is particularly, we've had some incidents notified around these issues where the company's identity, identifying data, so their identity in some form or another, is used to impersonate that business for a thief's gain. So they may use a logo. We have seen it in the tendering process where an engineering firm's name, websites, everything is used to in fact purport to be that engineering firm to win a tender, and we've found out via the tender process of these matters. So it does happen. It is a very stressful time for your clients because, of course, what do you do if you didn't have support? Who do you turn to? Do you report it to the police? Do you contact the individual? Do you contact the client who might be making use of that individual? And what happens if harm is being caused by that individual in your name? So it certainly is a very concerning type of situation that could happen to any business. We cover the costs to rectify the incident, so we get the experts in to manage the process, and of course the iTOO hotline is available to handle those incidents 24/7. And then we have sanction screening of the insureds. So we do sanction screening globally for any individual, entity or country of concern. We are a responsible institute, and so we have to do it as much as you as broker have to be screening your clients, and under many pieces of legislation, but knowing your client and under FICA and the like, screening of clients is quite important. So we certainly do use it currently for underwriting, but if you do have any concerns and need some support for one of our insureds in this space, we're able to offer this. And again, that's on an individual, an entity, or a particular country of concern. We also are able to do adverse media screening. So if there has been anything scary showing up, whether it be in news media or social media, we are able to pick those up, again, around individuals or entities, and provide that information. I think a query we receive most often from brokers is, my client is going into X country, Sudan, Iraq, Iran, wherever it might be, where we know and our heads trigger a concern. They're going to go and do some work there, or they have been awarded a contract there. Are they covered? So this becomes very important when you have restrictions and jurisdictions, that you are aware and are supported in understanding the restrictions around certain countries and operating within those countries when it comes to sanctions. There are particular countries that might have sanctions, but they don't impact the particular types of services that your client might be doing. So it is important to check and make sure, and we're there to support you on that. Then in terms of the current surveys that we're conducting, we have two, and I hope Mark is online, but we are, first and foremost, we have started because of the volume of claims that is natural in the general liability space. We have started, and this is countrywide, conducting liability risk surveys. And really, the process for it is very, very simple, but we do conduct a liability risk assessment for the client at their premises at no additional cost to the client or the broker. This assessment will help identify really any areas of concern or recognize weaknesses that may create liability for the client's business. We can then provide the client with recommendations to help and improve those risks that they're facing. So generally speaking, if we have identified a client that we would like to run a liability survey for, and we generally would talk to clients that are in high risk industries, anything from construction, security, manufacturing in particular, food and beverage industry, particularly exposures under GL that have a product liability risk. Certainly those areas all have a lot of legislation they have to comply with. They've got lots of rules and regulations. So we want to come in and make sure that we can help and support them to give them very practical ways that they can comply with all of that. So the process from our side is we would identify clients with high risk exposures or perhaps taking very high limits or any of those sorts of things. We would always engage with you as the broker. We would always keep you in the loop and front and center of this process. Engage with you obviously to make sure that you're comfortable that we will be approaching your client. The business is then surveyed. Once everybody's happy, we'll be in touch with the clients. We go and survey them. Sometimes it's a quick one and we're in and out in a day. Sometimes it takes a few days. And that's why we engage with you to make sure we're also talking to the right people. The report is then sent to us on the findings of the surveyor, and a risk improvement report is compiled by us. So we take into consideration not only the recommendations of the consultant that has been sent and who has interviewed the client and spoken to various staff and employees, but also our underwriters also may have some recommendations, our claims team, as well as myself. And we also use resources like AM Best reports and best practice globally and internationally that we can use to make sure your client is getting the absolute best advice we can give. Once that report is compiled, we then share that report with yourself and your client. And we really hope then that they go and implement those particular findings and improvement suggestions to help grow their business, improve their risk profile, maybe even improve what their premiums might look like in the coming years. But certainly the idea is always to help the client first. And that really is our most important. A similar process is followed on the commercial crime surveys. And I'm just going to check very quickly because I didn't see if Michael is online. Can anybody confirm if Michael is there?
No, he isn't.
Oh no. Okay.
No, not yet.
So Mark hasn't made it. So I'll be winging this for him. So the next is then our commercial crime surveys, and the PwC Global Risk Survey actually said that 77% of South African organizations have suffered an economic crime, and it is the highest in the world. And I think any of you who have clients who you've tried to or gotten commercial crime insurance for understand how tough that market has been for quite some time, how hard that market has been in terms of not only capacity rates, the terms and conditions applied have been quite stringent. And we've recognized that we can only support and offer the insurance if we're also coming to the other side of the coin and also offering some risk management support to clients. Again, it's one of those areas where we've really seen the simplest things could actually avoid so many of the claims that we're seeing, but they're not in place. And I'm sure that if you've sat through any of our commercial crime product discussions, the discussion's certainly always been around segregation of duties and making sure that there's certain checks and balances in place. But we do live in a world, and particularly a country, where people are under stress. They certainly have a propensity for economic crime and commercial crime within the organizations. And we always guard against thinking that anybody is beyond those kinds of actions. We've seen the most innocent of bookkeepers all the way through to really seasoned financial directors falling prey to, I want to say victim, but actually perpetrating these kinds of crimes. So it's really important that we not overlook any business in this framework, and that certain solutions be provided. And so we have crime risk advisory. Michael goes in to particular firms that we've identified, and we'll go and have those conversations with the financial, the accounting team, and understand what is happening on the ground for them. Because often what a company has put in place as best practice is not always what's happening on the ground. And it's sometimes very difficult for them to oversee that the right things are being done on the ground day to day, because that's really where the risk is coming out. So we're able to go in, have conversations with and interviews with the right people, have a look at the processes and procedures in place to really understand what's going on in the business at grassroots level, and then be able to support the client again in some suggestions as to what we can do to help and support them, and what they can do to improve their risk in this space. And ultimately, it's for us to make sure that we are being good custodians of the risk-taking that we do as an industry, and make sure that we are providing the best support that we can. Then there are a number of other solutions that we also provide. One is Spill Safe. If any of you have any clients within the environmental liability space, whether it's anything from mines to waste treatment plants and the like, anything within the actual environmental space, Spill Safe, we conduct enviro surveys, particularly on, we've seen of late within the large scary mines, to really understand that risk. Those kinds of risks you can never understand on paper. And I really do believe that the surveys as a form of helping underwriters as well to truly understand your clients is so valuable. And so we really do put a lot of energy into these surveys and how they can help and support both the client and underwriting. So this really gives us a good picture of the client, understanding what is happening on site in a way that no proposal form could ever really identify for us. And then again, of course, to provide any risk improvements that we could suggest from the experience in those industries. Very important for anybody who has an enviro related policy with us is the incident response. Most environmental type incidents are emergencies, and if left too long can cause catastrophic consequential loss. And so it's very important that our response is dealt with very urgently. So clients within that space have 24/7 access to a call center that will immediately put them through to our incident response team, who are then able to deploy the correct individuals to be able to go and actually manage those situations. They're incredibly tricky situations for your clients to have to deal with, and very stressful. And so we want to make sure that we are there as quickly as possible, not only to mitigate the loss, but certainly to support your client in doing the best job they can of cleaning up those issues. So once again, not just a commercial benefit for them, but ensuring that their reputations are kept intact as well. We then also have our cyber risk management opportunities where, one, yes, we do the penetration testing. So whether every single insured within the cyber risk profile is certainly had penetration testing and reporting done for them. But certainly if you are on that fence, and I know that cyber has probably been quite a tough sell for brokers for a long time, and it's a scary place to sit and have a conversation with your client. A starting point could be possibly doing a penetration test for them and helping them to understand what their exposure really is. Cyber risk comes up on every global report from every type of industry across the globe as the highest risk, the biggest concern for directors. So certainly we need to make sure that we are offering the best support that we can in this space. So preemptively, which risk management always tries to be, that penetration testing is done, and obviously some improvements are recommended and suggested within that space. But of course, if something does happen, the incident response is in place. And again, a 24/7 call center is available to clients for them to contact, either to notify of an incident where there is not an immediate emergency that can be dealt with, or a claim situation, or else where there are emergency type situations. This will be identified by the call center and the correct response will be sent out. And so there we are able to actually make sure again that the client is getting the support they need in the crisis that they're going through at that time. We then, within the product recall space, so particularly if you are a broker to a group of clients within the food and beverage industry, the product recall, again, you sit in a situation of true crisis if a product recall is ever necessary. And so it's, again, very important for us to make sure that the client is prepared. And the better prepared, the better the response. So we do preemptively, to insureds here, offer mock recall exercises. Our consultants come in and actually offer training to the insured and their employees to make sure everybody's on the same page around what the protocols would be and what to do in the case of an emergency. Equally, if an incident does occur, there's an immediate incident response they have access to, who will come in and in fact help manage the incident and manage that product recall from beginning to end. In many of these products, it's not just a consultant that specializes in this particular area that is called on. It's often a legal advisor for any liability issues. There's often a PR and media expert to help with any reputational issues as well. So the solution offered to the client is far broader than simply responding to the immediate crisis. I think what's really important in all of these, though, is that we go through the exercise preemptively to make sure that we are ready for the crisis that might flow from it. And so we look to the future. That's where we are at now, 6 months into the process. And certainly we know that there are so many other areas of our business, as well as looking into the industries and into our country that desperately require risk management and particularly solutions around where they can be supported to make better business decisions around what they're doing and how they're conducting their business. So the future for us, what we are looking to, and certainly what you can look forward to. We currently are busy with iTOO Payment Protect. Quite prevalent is the concern around change of banking details, for example, or theft of money from within the business. And so iTOO Payment Protect is a verification of third parties that we are able to bring in, offer to the clients, and they're able to use this with all of their payments, particularly once-off payments, the first time they make a payment for a client, or where there are any change of banking details. We're able to provide that service it not only verifies on the banking end that the account details are correct, but on the other side, it also verifies the actual individual to make sure that those two sets of information match by actually contacting the individual who it should be going to. So fraud can be avoided in a huge way simply by having that kind of platform in place. So that is coming soon, so stay tuned. We are also looking into, with our partnership with Global Choices, is into video surveys. So particularly in matters where we have things where people can really almost self-service in terms of their surveys. We're going to be looking into how we can do this digitally, how we can convey information and help and support and talk to the clients through simple video conferencing with their phone, walking around their site, having a look at their warehouse or whatever it may be. So lots of interesting things happening in that space, and the digital space is, I think, a scary place, but something we've all got to get very comfortable with very quickly. So we're looking into how can AI, digital automation, all of that support clients to be better risks and to help them within their business space. And then, of course, I'm sure you all know the medical space particularly is always high risk. It's always a concern. And certainly, what is it that we can do about it? So what we have identified, particularly within the medical framework, is the real concern is often around the patient truly understanding what the risk is going into a particular procedure or with certain medication or whatever the circumstance might be. And our ability to be able to show this in a legal situation, in a court situation, but also to help doctors do a better job of informing patients. What can we do? And so we are currently working on a product that will basically be patient-informed consent management for doctors, and we will be able to provide this to doctors in order to help them to be able to make sure that they are giving their clients all the information about any type of procedure or medication or whatever it is that they may need, that it is accessible, and that we have those on record for the doctor to be able to call on any time should a dispute arise. So those are just some of the little things that we are working on next. We want to make sure that we really cement down and have these things rolling out well before we move on to our next project. And so we are always in process. And then, of course, our call centers I've spoken about already across a couple of our products, our risk management solutions, those call centers that we have managed for us. We are also looking for iTOO to go digital with those so that your clients have, they don't have to dig out their policy wordings to try and find the call center number to try and get hold of us, but they actually can just simply download the iTOO app, log on, and they will always just have essentially a panic button they can just push to call the call center. So they never have to remember the number again, and we can offer various features on that. So we are currently working with that iTOO Risk Solutions app to be able to offer that to clients. So that is where we are from a risk management perspective. We certainly are learning a lot about how to bring all of this together for you. We are looking forward in the months to come to be providing you with information and breaking this risk management journey down into industries, because I think that it's a huge topic and nothing that we can get through in 1 hour, but certainly something that we want to unpack with you, be there to support you, answer your questions, and guide you through this, guide the clients through this, and of course, and learn through. So we really do encourage you to engage with us, please. I'm going to open it up for questions now or suggestions. We really are interested in hearing from you about any areas that you've come across that you feel are gaps for you that you would really like support in from a risk management perspective. So I'm just going to put you all in front of me very quickly,
Okay.
and then I'm going to ask you to open up for questions.
So we have a question from Ingrid. She's asking, is the legal assistance limited to the cover type? For example, under a commercial crime policy for iTOO sign-off assistance on a product liability issue?
So no, we are not restricted. If you have legal assist on, the legal assist product itself is not actually linked to the policy that you've purchased. So no matter the policy that has been purchased, it is not specific to that risk type. So if you have a commercial crime policy with us, and your client has a concern, they can contact the legal assist line on to ask about any company law issues, labor law issues they have. So anything really around their commercial environment they can ask about. If they have debtors they need, letters of demand for somebody who's overstepping the line, they can get that kind of support. We are looking to expand that into the liability space. So if they have a concern around something that might cause a claim, then rather contact, obviously through the broker, contact the underwriters or our claims team or myself, and we can have a chat around that. So for right now, it's not anything that may give rise to a claim. That would be sent back to us to help and support you on for right now. But it's anything within the commercial space, and it's not restricted to the policy type. Any other questions?
We have another question from Oscar. He's asking, will credit guarantee insurance cover, will that fall under the iTOO payment protect?
No, so that's an entirely different product. This is specifically, particularly aimed at those who hold trust accounts. So the typical professions that would hold trust accounts at the moment are attorneys, accountants, and in some cases, property practitioners. But certainly we are looking to expand it into the commercial crime space. It does need to be modified a little bit to be appropriate there, from a cover or from a response perspective and how it operates. But from your credit guarantees and that sort of thing at this stage, it doesn't take the place of that, because there's not necessarily a policy behind it that is triggered. So it's important to us that the risk management is one aspect of it, but certainly that there's always the insurance product that does sit and back that up. So at this stage, no, it wouldn't overlay with your credit guarantee environment.
Okay, and the next question is from Gina. She's asking, all of these solutions to our clients obviously need to have the various policies in place. Do you provide product recall cover for the automotive industry?
No, unfortunately not at this stage. It's purely, the product recall is purely within the space of food and beverage at the moment. But if you want a little bit more detail on what is covered within the product recall, you're welcome to either pop me an email. You do have my email address on the screen at the moment, and I can pass it on. Or if you have Katya's number and contact details, you're welcome to contact her. She looks after all of our product recall. But pop me an email and I'm happy to pass that on to her. Somebody was asking just about the timing around the payment protect. That will be released within the next 3 months. We will be able to offer that product. So please stay tuned. Pop me an email if you want to be notified when it's available, and I'll put you on the list to get in touch.
Okay, our other question is from Anonymous. They're asking, what industries do you supply product recall to, and would you do the steel industry?
So again, it's just product recall at this stage is only for the food and beverage industry, and it is quite specific even within that. Product recall is is quite a challenging area. And so we're very careful about the areas that we currently are or do have a risk appetite for. So currently, as far as I know, but I do stand to be corrected. So Katja, if you're on the call, you're welcome to jump up and down and answer this question, but I don't believe anything in the steel industry at the moment, no. Anything else? You're welcome to unmute yourself as well and just shout out your questions. It's absolutely fine. Katja's information has also been shared on the chat. If you want any other information around product recall, you're most welcome to contact her, and she can probably answer you a little bit better on the product side than I can. Cesar, is that it?
There's one more question. It's also from Anonymous. They are asking, are you restricted to your territorial limits, or can you arrange facultative reinsurance through your reinsurance brokers?
So sorry, is the question around, can we do risk management in other territories?
Yes.
Okay, so currently we are setting this all up within the South African context. We, of course, are looking, we're actually meeting quite soon to talk about the African countries that we have set up offices in and how we can support those as well. Naturally, the liability framework is always tough because there's a legal framework that has to be understood first in order to really offer all of the risk management suite of solutions. So we will, the aim is certainly in my hopes and dreams is to get to various countries and be able to offer cross-border the risk management in a broader sense. But right now we're focusing on getting it launched off in South Africa, learning from how it's operating here. But if you have any particular areas of concern that you have questions around, and specific things, again, please, you're most welcome to send me the query. We always want to try help. So, you know, if I can, even if it's just to point you in the right direction, you're most welcome to contact me and we can see what we can do. Thank you so much, everybody. I think that's it. But again, if something dawns on you at midnight tonight when you can't sleep and is bothering you, please keep my details. You're welcome to send me a message anytime, and we can chat, and let's keep chatting. I think this is a really exciting journey we're on, and we're so looking forward to engaging with you. And as brokers, please support it. You know, we're out there to help your clients, so please support the surveys, support these assessments, the solutions that we're trying to provide to your clients, and let's chat. Have a super Tuesday, everybody. And a great week ahead. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.